What does being a wizard mean to you?
Being a wizard is whatever I want it to mean. I can change the meaning as it suits me. I like the idea of it being a lot of mischief, a bit of a celebration of life. A few years ago, I was not very happy in the job that I was doing. One of the kids actually suggested that I should be a wizard, and it was actually a pretty logical progression of some of the things I was interested in anyway, because I've always been interested in like weird movies and TV shows and psychedelic music and things like that. I did a lot of research, read books and things, sort of looked into different things, found out what suited me and what didn't. One of the things that really appealed to me was the idea of chaos. The world can be crazy and feel like it's out of control. There's a real temptation to be really rational all the time, and that's boring. We can say, no, I'd rather it works this way for me, or I'd rather look at it like that. I think that can appeal to everybody when it's that simple. I have done what would be considered spells. Doing that may or may not have had a difference in what I was trying to achieve, but it definitely cleared up my head to do it. It's much more fun to say, hey, it was a spell and it worked and it was magic. But something else that I like to do is just incorporate different little rituals into my day. Lighting candles or wearing certain clothes or things like that. And I think that a lot of people have those kind of rituals anyway. Like, it's not really something I do on my own. It's something that incorporates the whole family as well. Like, for example, my wife makes a lot of clothes, and she very often has the idea, what would a wizard wear? And like, she made this scarf, she made this jumper. She's sort of been encouraging me for a long time, just from her own example of how to look at things creatively and take a different approach to things, a different perspective. Hopefully I can be a bit of an inspiration there as well. It's sort of having this kind of, I guess you could say, a bit of a purpose to what I'm doing can be a bit of an example and be fun for other members of the family to join in on.
I'm very happy with the content I got from this interview. I personally found it a really interesting topic, learning about how my dad incorporates magic and wizardry into his everyday life. I never fully understood what he did that made him a wizard, but through this interview I feel like I learned a lot about him. It was a pretty smooth process getting information during the interview. Since the interviewee was my dad, we were both more comfortable talking to each other. Similar to what the readings have spoken about, having that trust between the interviewer and the interviewee gave way for a lot more in-depth answers. But even though I was happy with that side of the project, there are also areas that I didn't do as well as I would have liked. In particular, I feel like I rushed the process of setting up the interview. The location, the camera's position, preparing the questions. All of these aspects weren't what I was entirely looking for beforehand. While I don't think it was poorly done, I would have liked to have had more time to think everything through and set everything up perfectly. Because I felt the need to rush the whole filming portion of the project, there was a similar issue with the B-roll footage. I had a lot more ideas in advance, but when it came to shooting, they weren't ready or I overlooked them. Originally, I didn't have much interest in the documentary format. I've always gravitated more towards the more conventional ways of storytelling, like most movies or shows. But by looking at interviews in this course and analysing the creative choices you can make when producing them, I feel like I have a better idea of what they're used for. Here's a quote from Michael Rabiger from the Week 9 reading. A documentary scene can be a drama in miniature, following the curve of pressures that build to a climax, then release into a new situation. This helped me form a connection between the traditional 3-act structure of stories to the stories that documentaries can tell. By looking at the interview as though it's a movie following that structure, it became more intriguing and inspirational to me. Through the process of making this interview, I feel as though I have a greater appreciation for planning ahead. Because of how many aspects I skipped over at first, there were a lot of sections that didn't meet my expectations. But because of how eager I was to get shooting done, there wasn't enough time to go back and fix them. The project definitely would have benefited from having extra time at the end to account for these things. If I organised my time better, there would have been more time afterwards to look back on everything and make whatever changes were necessary. Since I didn't consider planning ahead so much, the overall quality of the final product wasn't the best it could have been. Time management is important in all media works, so hopefully I'll be able to improve on it to be better in the future.